Hello everyone and welcome to my day. I'm Kane and today we are back with a new reaction video. Today, I'm going to be reacting to somebody new. I've never actually heard of this person before. It's Where Did Ash Actually Go in Kanto by Kazutrash. So I literally just finished reacting to Maxor's Crimson Desert review at the time of this recording. Literally like a couple minutes ago was where I ended that recording. So, yeah, this was just one of the recommended videos after that, and it seems interesting. I've never heard of this channel before, but as many of you may know, I'm a big fan of Pokemon. I'm probably easily one of the biggest defenders of Scarlet and Violet. I love those games. I mean, Scarlet specifically is the one that I played, but it applies to both. I love Scarlet and Violet, and I've been defending it. I mean, I'll give it criticism where it's due. You know, even I can't defend that like performance at launch. I can forgive it a lot more now because on the Switch 2 it runs with zero problems at all um from my personal experience. Um, there's an argument to be had about like the fact that you basically need a stronger console just for that game to run well. Um, and yeah, I can't defend that, but there is a way to play that game with little to no issue performance-wise. So, I don't know. But that's not what this video is about. This video is going into the anime more than anything, which I did watch the anime some growing up. I didn't keep up with it the entire run or anything, but I did watch the anime a decent bit when I was a kid, and mainly like the season one, mainly like the Kanto and Johto portions. I didn't watch much of the Hoenn portion. I remember watching the Sinnoh portion a little bit. I feel like that was the most recent one that was coming out when I was like actively aware of it, which I would have been like 10 or 11 when the Sinnoh anime started. But yeah, but this is going into season one of the anime. It seems. I guess just tracking like Ash's actual journey, especially when he just seems to go wildly off the map at times. Like after the SS Ant sinks and he's just on some, and he, Misty, and Brock are just on some random like island for a while. Because I was just recently, well, I say recently, it was like months and months ago, watching the anime on the official Pokemon YouTube channel. Because for those of you who didn't know, the entirety of it, or at least it's up to a point. I think they add new episodes like every day or something. But the original anime up to a point, at least at the time of this recording, is on the official Pokemon. I think it's the Pokemon TV channel actually, because they ended support for the Pokemon TV app. But so they just started uploading all the episodes on YouTube directly. So yeah, every episode up to a point is on the Pokemon TV YouTube channel. So if you're interested in going back and feeling nostalgic and watching the original anime and everything, it's all on there. I think last I checked, it was up until like partway through Hoenn, I want to say, was on that channel. And like I said, they publish new episodes on the Pokemon TV YouTube channel like every day or like every couple days or something. But yeah, so I did watch a little bit of the original anime not too long ago, and it was right around. It was like right after the SS Ant sank that I got up to in the anime when I was rewatching it, and I need to go back and continue. But that's enough rambling for me. This seems to just go over like Ash's actual journey and like where he went and everything. So yeah, let's get started.
Have you ever found yourself watching Pokemon and then questioning, wait, where exactly are they right now? If so, then you're in the right place. I'm here to tackle that very question for hopefully the entirety of Ash's journey, starting in, for this video, the Kanto region. Keep in mind there's going to be a ton of inferring and headcanon, or just straight up guessing for a lot of these locations, because it gets pretty damn bad. Also, you'll soon see that I remade the entirety of Kanto's map to include all of those anime original locations, and as a reference, I did—
Oh wow. That is actually really sick. I like that. And map download. There he actually does have the map like available to download on in the description. You probably can't see it very well on here, but trust me, it's there, and it is really cool that he did that. He didn't have to. I don't think anybody would have cared if he didn't, but it's really cool that he did. But yeah.
Did use the Let's Go map from the trailer, because this one's just way more detailed. And plus, it's the most recent map we have. Anyway, let's run it. The beginning is fairly straightforward. Ash woke up in Pallet Town, got his Pikachu from Oak, and traveled through Route 1. Upon reaching Viridian City, Ash stayed the night at the Pokemon Center with Misty, who was now following him around in hopes of being paid back for a new bike. They then entered Viridian Forest for 2 episodes.
I always forget that that's why Misty was following Ash around.
Ash captured a Caterpie, who evolved into a Metapod, then a Butterfree with the help of a Beedrill and a Samurai Larper. In episode 5, they spent the whole episode
the Samurai Larper, I forgot about him.
First badge. Following that, they began their trek down Route 3, and that's when Brock joined the party. And in the next episode, they made it in and out of Mount Moon. Episode 8 rolled around, and they had successfully reached Cerulean City, to Misty's dismay. While here, Ash successfully cheated his way out of his second badge now. In episode 8,
Ash, starting with a Pikachu, really should have just swept that entire gym. The fact that he just actively chose not to and they gave him the badge anyways, bullshit. I stand by that, damn it. You're supposed to fight and win for the gym badges. Nobody would have minded.
On the outskirts of Cerulean, they found Damien's unofficial gym. Here, they noted their next destination is Vermilion City, because Misty wants to see the Saint Anne. Plus, there's a gym there. At least that's where they said they were going. In actuality, the gang headed north for some reason, probably by accident, because unlike the games, talking to Bill isn't a requirement. Anyway, on the Cerulean outskirts, they found 1, like I said, Damien's unofficial Pokemon gym, and 2, the Pokemon Academy, one of the other ways you can participate in the Pokemon League besides getting the badges. Now, the reason I said those 2 locations are on Cerulean's outskirts and not officially Route 24 yet is because in episode 10 they found themselves atop a bridge. Now, don't be fooled, there's no secret Team Rocket recruiting scheme nor a shiny golden nugget reward at the end, though it's still a bridge on the way to Bill's house, so this must be the anime's replacement for it. Unfortunately, they don't make it across. The rope bridge snaps, leading them downstream to the hidden village, which is just a single house. Since we're officially off grid now, it is inferring time. Taking into account that rivers usually flow towards the ocean, its torrent likely naturally heads eastward, so we can assume they're roughly here. It's so funny because it's at this point, episode 11, where Misty mentioned they've been on the road to Vermilion City for 10 days now.
We've been looking for Vermilion City for 10 whole days!
Confirming they've still been trying to get there the whole time. Guys, you went the complete wrong direction. Did you just pick a direction and go? Did you ask anyone which direction Vermilion might be in?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's like, were you hoping you would just circle back around to it eventually? Like, circle the entire planet and eventually come back around to Vermilion City. How long would that even take by walking? Oh my god, I don't even want to... I'm not even going to bother putting an edit here. Like, verifying, or, answering that question, because that probably requires a lot of math that I don't think anybody's ever bothered to do, and I'm not about to be the first.
I mean, Brock usually has a map. Brock, look at your map. What the frick, man? But yeah, they're obviously still following the game's path somewhat. Ash mentioned the closest official route is 24, soon leading them to the conclusion that if they cross this mountain pass, they'd be on the...
Is there Route 24 in Johto? Hold on, let me see here. Pokemon Route 24. No, it's the route north of the Nugget Bridge. Why? I thought that the routes in Johto or in Kanto only went up to like 19 or something. Like, why is Route 24 all the way up there?
Route to Vermilion City. But the key point here is they need to cross a mountain to start making their way towards Vermilion, meaning they must have somehow already crossed or gone around this mountain before, since the only mountainous area around here is on Route 24. By the way, Saffron is on the way to Vermilion. Why don't they try going there before Vermilion? I don't know. Well, I mean, I do know it's because it's not the game's route, but...
It's not the game's route, but in the game, you go underneath the Saffron and go straight to Vermilion. You just go through a tunnel that goes under Saffron for some reason because the guards at the guards at like the border crossing or whatever don't let you through. They just say, "Oh yeah, the road's closed. Man, I'm thirsty," and they don't let you through until you give them a drink.
It's kind of funny. They're following the games right, even though it makes no sense for them to. There was no mention of a Team Rocket takeover, nor a thirsty guard, or any reason really why they skipped the most bustling city in Kanto. Anyway, they then found a hidden away Pokemon Center in the middle of nowhere. Ash mentioned,
Route 24 can't be too far.
Once he saw it, so let's take his word as fact and infer the Pokemon Center is right around here, on the western end of this mountain range. Of course, here Ash saved Damien's abandoned Charmander, and they continued onto Route 24. Finally back on an official route now, they must have taken the lower route back to the city, because Nugget Bridge is currently unusable, as we know, is what I would say if this was the games. However, the anime is a whole new beast, because if you remember, there is no lower route back under Nugget Bridge in this version, meaning they must have traveled the entire river's course until reaching Route 4. Here, Officer Jenny found them and took the trio back to what I can only assume is a more rural side of Cerulean, though not quite the outskirts. Then the gang took a break with some fishing before starting up their journey again. Alright, this part is hilarious. While they were just enjoying their day off adventuring, finally able to relax after making it back to civilization again, they got abducted by the Squirtle Squad, who I'm assuming takes them pretty damn far upstream and possibly into those same mountains again. Because after resolving all of these shenanigans, it's only a few episodes later before somehow encountering Bill's lighthouse, which is the reason I said they were going north in the first place. Also, the fact that there's no other rivers or streams around.
Was Bill ever stated to live / near a lighthouse? In the games? In the games, it's just a regular house. I'm not sure it's ever been portrayed as a lighthouse. Maybe it's cliffside. It would make sense, but like, also, lighthouses are like ports. Bill lives neither in nor near a port.
Around here. Before that, though, to get a potion for Pikachu, Ash embarked on a journey to the nearest civilization, which you would assume to be Cerulean, right? Wrong! Well, you might be right. But Ash was flung off course again after another rope bridge broke on him, landing right onto a Goldine's horn. Note to self, do not use the rope bridges in Kanto. And taking into account the next episode is Bill's episode, you can assume the Squirtle Squad took them to somewhere on the water side of this mountain range. I mean, it only makes sense that they'd be close to the water with them being water types and all, right? So with that being said, this might even be somewhat close to the hidden village where Ash got Bulbasaur before. Not that he would have any reason to know that. Also, keep in mind they're in a cave on a pretty high up mountain, because Ash leaves the cave and immediately goes at a pretty steep angle downwards. Ash simply ran in a direction to find an unnamed town Brock mentioned, which we can assume is Cerulean since it's the only civilization they've been to in the last 2 weeks. But since the bridge back was now broken, when Ash found another one, he had no choice but to cross it because he knew Nugget Bridge was inoperable. It's his best shot. Either way though, the second rope bridge also broke and Ash fell into the same river and drifted downstream again, until coming ashore on the south side of the river. Now, the reason I said it's the other side is because Ash will soon come ashore in an old western-style town, and the same Officer Jenny from the Squirtle Squad...
Yeah, unnamed western town on the east side of the region.
Case saves Ash from getting blasted. We can assume this Jenny probably patrols Cerulean and the surrounding villages and towns, right? So it's only natural she'd come across Ash here, on this side of the water. Though I would never take a motorcycle across a rope bridge, but it seemed like she was ready to. Here's what I have trouble understanding though. Officer Jenny found the rope bridge that fell apart when Ash walked across it, then said this, and continued down the cliffside until reaching a tiny cave, which she dubbed as a shortcut. This is no ordinary shortcut either, since it led him straight to the very same cave the Squirtle Squad were keeping Misty, Brock, and Pikachu, meaning Jenny must be very, freakishly well acquainted with the surrounding geography, but that's besides the point. I double-checked this because there's no possible point where any part of the mountain would cross over the river. So how does this make any Euclidean sense? Well, hold on. We can assume that old western town was to the east of Cerulean, and a little north of the official Route 9. And there's somewhere near the river that has a tiny cave, which I guess we have to say travels deep below the river and all the way up the mountain, which connects to the very same hideout the Squirtle Squad have been using, which Jenny knows about because she was obsessed with this case like Hank to Heisenberg. That's the best I've got. Ash went spelunking under a river, up a mountain. That same cave led directly to the Squirtle Squad's hideout. I don't know. That's all I've got. If you got something better, let me know, because This part really baffled me. Anyway, finally on episode 13 now, Ash and the gang, with their newfound member in Squirtle, immediately return to being lost upon exiting the cave. I feel like their sense of direction is substantially worse when Misty, Brock, and Ash are working together, or rather against each other, because last episode Ash had a pretty damn good sense of direction, all on his own. He found that old western town and returned back all in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, it's like their powers combined make them get lost more easily than freaking Zoro in One Piece.
Perhaps Ash suggested spelunking again down that same cave, but was denied, probably by Misty, and decided they'd try to find a different way around. Anyway, they stumbled past the mountain range, through the forest near Route 25, and somehow accidentally found Bill's lighthouse on the dang peninsula. Alright, well, after witnessing a giant dragonite and spending the night in Bill's lighthouse, they could finally get back to an official route in Route 25. So back on track to Vermilion now. Between the end of episode 13 and the beginning of 14, there's a bit of a time skip. They backtracked through routes 25, 24, around the river, through Route 4, through Cerulean, down Route 5, and like I said earlier, they skipped Saffron for no reason. They're just really dead set on Vermilion, I guess. You know, it would be funny if they went through Saffron too, but they didn't realize it had a gym there, because
this makes a lot less sense in the anime. I mean, in the anime, realistically, it's just because a lot of this was filler. That, like, I'm pretty sure like half the anime is just filler. But like, yeah, it's like they went through all this trouble, all this BS, looking for Vermilion City, but because nobody on the writing team wanted to say, oh, like, I heard about some dude named Bill, we should go like talk to him, see if he knows anything interesting. And more organically have them go the opposite direction of Saffron or Vermilion. They're just like, oh, let's go to Vermilion, and then just go the opposite direction for no fucking reason. Maybe in the Japanese version, the writing makes more sense for that, but at the same time, he's shown footage of the Japanese anime, meaning he probably watched that for like extra clues, or like maybe discrepancies between the two translations or what have you. I don't know, but he doesn't mention that in the Japanese version they said something about wanting to go visit Bill first, and like going that way for that reason. So that tells me that even in the Japanese version they say, hey, let's go to Vermilion City, and then they just go the opposite direction for no reason.
The only reason they're so focused on Vermilion is because Misty wants to see the St. Anne. But still, you'd think they'd at least check for any badges in the city, the biggest city that they've encountered thus far. In fact, I think this is considered the biggest city in Kanto. But in any case, they, I assume, traverse through or around Saffron City and Route 9, and then finish off at the port city of Vermilion. While here, Ash defeated Lieutenant Surge, and then the next day boarded the St. Anne with Brock and Misty. And as we all know, this was the St. Anne's final voyage. Alas, it sunk midway through their cruise. Well, they were back on track for a total of one episode. Now we're really gonna have to start bringing out some headcanon, because
the SSN never sinks in the game's canon. There's never a point where they mention like why. I mean, the SSN is supposed to be a yearly event. It comes back to Kanto once per year, and theoretically, I think you could assume that like everywhere it goes, like it just goes once a year to each place. So maybe it makes like 52 stops a year, once per week or something like that at each port. I don't know, but it just never comes back after it leaves, because Gen 1 didn't have any kind of like time tracking mechanic, and no version of Kanto after ever had it either, for some reason. I mean, Gen 2 kind of did, but the SSN isn't in that. So like, oh god, what am I trying to say? So I think that was the anime trying to explain why the SSN never came back or something, but yeah, in the games it's never explained why the SSN never comes back. In Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, I believe data miners found an unused SSN ticket in the aisles So it's speculated that the SSN might have been planned to make a return in Gen 4, but was just cut for whatever reason. But yeah, there's never like an NPC in any of the games saying like, "Oh yeah, the SSN sunk off the coast of Kanto like 3 years ago or however long ago or whatever." Um, and a lot of time has passed, even in the games, for them to say that one way or the other. Because in Gen 7, like, if Red and Blue are like 10, 11, or like 10 to 12 in Gen 1, they are like, I think they're like somewhere between like 17 and 19 in Gen 7. And and so like we can confirm, at least in the game continuity, in like series continuity, a decent amount of time has passed since Gen 1 and since Red's adventure, I should say. Um and hell, even in actually in Let's Go, um red blue red and blue, and I believe in the games, I think the girl's name is Green. um Most people just call her Leaf, but I think her name is Green. um she like they all show up in Let's Go as like people you can battle. So Let's Go takes place in like some kind of weird continuity that kind of retells the story of Gen 1, but also takes place after it. It's weird. um but yeah, and the SSN does show up again in that. So maybe it does. Maybe the SSN really did never sink in the games, and like Let's Go is like the most recently occurring game to have it show up in. But I don't know. But you'd think but with the amount of time that's like borderline confirmed to have taken place across the entire continuity, you'd think at some point somebody would mention the SSN and would say like, "Oh yeah, the SSN was just here like last week, but it already left," or the SSN sunk somewhere a while back, and some people, especially those that were on board at the time, still haven't gotten over it or something. Like you'd think they'd say something like that, but they just never did.
I have no idea where this ship may have sunk. Before long, they managed to escape the sunken cruise liner, but were then caught up in a school of Gyarados' collective dragon rage, catching them all in a monstrous water spout, causing them to lose consciousness and wash ashore on the island of giant Pokemon. So at this point, episode 17 is where it gets pretty dang funky, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't remember any island of giant Pokemon in Pokemon Red or Green. However, we can use some deductive reasoning here. While this is a tropical island, the town, or rather the city, they eventually reach in 5 more episodes is Saffron, which hardly makes any sense unless we again skipped something. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say they didn't make it too far though.
Oh my god.
It is stated that the SSN travels the world, though Giovanni owns the island of giant Pokemon, and I don't think he'd operate too far outside of his own region, but it's safe to say they at least left Kanto. In fact, I'd even wager our gang landed up on the Sevi Islands. After all, they're tropical locations based directly south of Kanto. Let's just assume their party washed ashore on Two Island, or any of the other numbered islands, otherwise known as the Island of Giant Pokemon, which is directly connected to—
I forget. I think I was just thinking this to myself the other day, but it's kind of odd that they just call them 1 island, 2 island, 3 island in in like the Gen 3 Kanto remakes and stuff. You'd think they would have gone with like maybe another language or something. To, like, not only sell that these places are supposed to be foreign, but also like to try to make the puns work a little bit better. Like 1 island could have been like Einland. Like make it German or something. Einland, Zweiland, Dreiland. Like at least for 1, 2, and 3 island, which were the only ones you actually which are the only ones that are mandatory to go to. It would make sense. The only one that would have made that awkward is 6, because in German 6 is pronounced sex. That's what it would be. It'd be like Sesh, Einland, Zweiland, Dreiland, Vierland, Fünfland, Sechland, and Siebenland. Look me in the eye. Hold on. Look me in the eye. and tell me that wouldn't have been a lot better. All right, let's continue.
To the port city of Acapulco, or Alpuco.
We're not going to talk about how
which
much
they eventually
effort I
reach
went
after
to
destroying the
how much
entire
effort I went
theme
to that.
park. Well, half them and half Team Rocket, I suppose. In episode 18, during their visit to Acapulco, Ash stole a boat, apparently accidentally, and they crashed it into Team Rocket's submarine. So they had to stay here for a bit to pay the owner back. Also, Misty participated in a beauty contest where James got some massive honkers.
Oh yeah, the band episode. I forgot about this. Let's forget James trying around with those fucking like G cups or whatever those are.
And then headed to the next port city on that same island to reach the only place where ferries return to the mainland, Hatuba Port, or Hutbert Port in English. Oh yeah, these two cities together are called Porta Vista. Episode 19 came around and they dealt with the Kaiju Tentacruel while in Hatuba Port and soon rode the ferry back to mainland Kanto. It's a little strange the ferry didn't take them to Vermilion, but let's ignore that because we've got another anime-exclusive location in Maiden's Cape, or Maiden's Peak in English. All we know, geographically speaking, about Maiden's Cape is its relativity to Saffron City, since that's the next city they reach. And I suppose also that it's nearby water, which leads me to believe this ferry must make multiple stops. And Ash and company just decided to get off in the innermost part of the bay and closest port to Saffron, which I'm placing right on the northeasternmost point of Tokyo Bay. After Brock and James fell in love with a ghost, they made their way to Saffron the next day. This is another questionable point, because here, Brock looked at a map saying,
"The map says that this ridge leads right to Saffron City."
Ash released his Butterfree on this coastal pathway, but...
Oh yeah, with the pink Butterfree that has never been canon to the games at all. They didn't even make Butterfree's shiny pink or anything to try to reference this. And when they started adding like gender differences between games, they didn't make female Butterfree pink or anything. Like, but pink Butterfree has never existed in any of the games. Not even like a special event Butterfree or something. It's only ever in this one episode of the anime.
Soon abandoned this waterside path thanks to Ash's idea of a shortcut, and headed northeast towards Saffron through the forest. With that being said, I'd imagine if they kept up Brock's original path, they would have ended up somewhere around Route 6 after circling the forest. Meaning this is one of those rare times Ash actually wasn't wrong about a supposed shortcut. Though I will say they did get lost during that shortcut and only managed to escape thanks to Sabrina's help. It's almost like Sabrina was awaiting their arrival and then saw they were getting lost again, or even she remembered them passing through Saffron before but was confused about why they didn't visit her gym, so she wanted to make sure they made it this time around. Anyway though,
oh yeah, Sabrina is freaky in the anime.
Thanks to Sabrina's help, Ash nearly falling off a cliff and dying, they got unlost and reached Saffron City. The following day, Ash challenged Sabrina, though he was utterly curb-stomped, so that same episode he headed over to Lavender Town to catch himself a ghost type. In Pokemon Tower, Ash actually does die this time, however is soon revived. And the next day, the trio headed back to Saffron with Ash's...
That one... I remember the episode of Ash going to fight Sabrina from when I was a kid. I never watched the Lavender Town episode though, because the episode with Sabrina was part of like the VHS that one of my cousins had. I doubt he still has it, but it was part of a VHS that one of my cousins had that had like 3 episodes of the anime on it, and it had like it was like themed. It was like 3 episodes with like a specific theme to them or something, but they weren't like continuity wise, they weren't like, you know, directly connected or anything. So I remember watching the episode of Ash going to Saffron City, trying to fight Sabrina, getting whooped, and being told, "Hey, go to Lavender Town and catch a ghost type. That'll help," which in the games should have, but didn't. I bet a lot of people who knew the games inside and out back in the day were really pissed about that one, of the anime just straight up giving false information. But that's beside the point. Like, you know, it didn't actually include the Lavender Town episode. And I never actually caught that one like on TV or anything when I was a kid. Or if I did, I don't remember it. So yeah, that Ash like just straight up dies early on in the anime and then gets brought back. That is insane. I never knew that.
New Haunter, where Ash had another false victory. This time not out of pity, but laughter. And so episode 24 ended with them heading off to Celadon City.
Wait, he makes Sabrina laugh so hard she gives him the badge? What?
Episode 25 was the surprisingly rare occurrence of an episode taking place on an official route, that being Route 8, where Ash caught his Primeape. Then, much to my surprise as well, without any buffers, roadblocks, obstacles, or even detours, they had successfully reached Celadon. During the following few episodes, Ash half won his badge, they found and saved a bunch of missing children, Misty got a Psyduck, and Brock almost got a girl. However, he did receive her Vulpix. Episode 29 began with them having left Celadon, starting their trip to Fuchsia City. At this point in time, they were on a very rare paved road in Pokemon, so I'm gonna go off on a limb here and assume this paved road connects to Cycling Road, the only other major paved road in Kanto. However, they don't make it the full way, or
well, the only major paved road in the games. We can, because like that's the thing about like the games, especially back in the day when there just wasn't as much like processing power and stuff. You had to use your imagination for a lot of things, which is not an explanation I necessarily like. I don't necessarily like when games do something like that, where they have like the actual explorable area be very limited and just tell you to use your imagination for what it must actually be like when there's more NPCs than there are houses for them to live in and so on. I much prefer something like, I'd say what Harvestella did, where, you know, when you go to like a town or something, there'll just be like extra buildings out of bounds and stuff that you can see but you can't visit, to like give the illusion of these being places people live in, and like stuff like that. So the NPCs don't just like sleep out in the streets every night because they don't have a house. They just, like, their houses are just on the outskirts or something. They're out of bounds, so you can't visit them or whatever. It's a very small visual difference that to me means the world, because it shows that, like, yeah, they didn't have the processing power or maybe even just the time to actually add unique houses for all these people to live in, but they were able to throw some building assets out in places you couldn't reach to give the illusion of these people actually living in places that you just can't go to, and they just make their way into the main city every day or whatever. Um, Pokemon games don't do that very often, especially, and like it's especially weird in like an open world game that doesn't have like say Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet are pretty good about it, about having like a lot of buildings and like a lot of like high rise, you know, apartment buildings and stuff for people to like presumably live in. But you know, a lot of the games is just like say Gen 1. You go to Pewter City or Pallet Town. You go to Pallet Town, the entire town is 3 buildings. And you can't even like look off to the sides like out of bounds and see like maybe extra buildings poking out between the trees and stuff that people could potentially be living in or something. Like there's just nothing there. So those scientists in Professor Oak's lab just sleep on the floor every night or something probably. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of those sorts of things. Like, oh, you just have to use your imagination or whatever. Like, I get it, I understand it because of like technical limitations and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
But maybe the funnier option, they do make it the full way, but were denied entry because of their lack of bicycles. In any case, they eventually reached a gas station, and while there learned about the Pokemon fighting tournament. And so they headed back into Celadon to compete in some Pokemon boxing, where Ash left his newly caught and evolved Primeape to participate in the boxing league to hopefully become a champ. I don't think we see Primeape ever again after this, so maybe he did. I don't know, man. Maybe not. En route to Fuchsia, they reached Gunjo City, or Gringy City in English, a factory-laden location overrun with pollution, leading to it being virtually abandoned. There is a power plant here, but I don't believe it's the same one as the one along Route 9, since they, 1, didn't go through Rock Tunnel in the next episodes, and 2, that would be completely out of the way, so I can only assume they backtracked through Route 8, then Saffron, then Route 6, Vermilion City, Route 11, and then I placed this city somewhere along the edge of the map on Route 11. After helping aid in the restoration of power to the city, they headed down to Route 13. At the beginning of episode 31, it shows them leaving.
But wait, if the city's abandoned, then who are they supplying power to? If there's no one there, why bother turning the power back on?
Leaving, I believe, a different unnamed city, and leaving in the opposite direction of the water, which leads me to surmise this was right on the southeastern corner of Kanto, because their next destination is, of course, Fuchsia City, or rather Fuchsia Gym, because in this version it's completely separate from the city. Anyway, after defeating Koga, he got himself the 6th badge.
If I'm not mistaken, the gym is pretty separate from the city and the games as well. It's like off to the south, and you have to cut through the little cut tree to get to it. And I don't think there's any way to the gym other than uh, going like cutting down the tree and going behind like the trees and stuff.
And we're not even halfway through. This is only episode 32. There are 80-something episodes in this anime. What happened there? Well, you'll see. You'll see. It gets wild. All right. Anyway, let's keep going. All right. So at the beginning of episode 33, it's stated by the narrator, Ash has reached Safari Land, an anime-exclusive Pokemon reserve, which appears to be close to the Safari Zone and is also home to a Pokemon racecourse, which.
Yeah, I was about to say like it's probably just a stand-in for the Safari Zone. So it feels a little bit like extra to call it Safari Land, which is close to the Safari Zone. Like, it's probably just a Safari Zone, my guy. You don't need to think too hard on it.
Ash participated in the Laramie Big P Ranch and the Laramie Village. At the beginning of episode 34, the narrator says they go through a great savanna on their way to the Safari Zone and are now deep in a thick jungle. Holy moly, that sounds like a long-ass trek to the Safari Zone in this version. This is still only the reserve. Finally, in episode 35, they reach the Safari Zone where Ash, of course, caught his tons and tons of Tauros. It's kinda hilarious how there were about like 3 or 4 episodes leading up to the Safari Zone. Ash was super excited to go, and then it ended up being cut in the English version.
Oh?
Damn. When I initially watched this part of the anime, I thought they just skipped over Fuchsia City entirely and replaced it with Safari Land, and of course the surrounding settlements.
So that entire segment is just not in the English version, really? That is nuts. I've heard about the 30 Tauros thing, so I have to imagine at some point in the English version, Ash mentions catching 30 Tauros, and but to the English audience, it just happened off screen. They're like, wait, what? What? Why? What? But in the Japanese version, you can actually see him doing that, but it's just not in the English version for some reason. Which, isn't Tauros rare, too?
But then I realized the unnamed city they started episode 36 in must be Fuchsia, especially since it's directly connected to Cycling Road. Normally they'd have no reason to actually cross Cycling Road, but Nurse Joy requested that they bring a special medicine over to, not Celadon, but Sunnytown, which means that paved road we saw earlier leading to Celadon likely connects to Sunnytown and not Fuchsia like I thought. That is, if all my assumptions so far have been correct. There are probably a lot of things I'm getting wrong, so if there is anything you've noticed, feel free to let me know down in the comments so I can clarify it and pin it to the top comment. Anyway, they heeded Joy's plea and made their way across the bridge, and thus delivered the medicine. The next day, they backtracked across the bridge again to make their way to Cinnabar Island, continuing through where Fuchsia should have been, which I'll just dub an extension of Route 19, or you can feel free to call this Safari Land as well, I don't know.
Cinnabar.
They found and visited...
Wait, they took a road to Cinnabar Island? Or a bridge? There's a bridge in the anime to Cinnabar Island? Whoa. What the fuck was that?
Or you can feel free to call this Safari Land as well, I don't know. They found and visited Duplica's seemingly abandoned Mimicry House Theater to wait out the rain inside of. Yet another anime-exclusive location.
Yeah, but it's probably meant to be a stand-in for, like, I forget her name, but, like, that girl in... I want to say Saffron City, who Saffron City, who, like, when you go talk to her, she, like, supposedly mimics your voice and, like, asks you your name in your own voice, but the text box just says it's you talking and stuff. It might be like an anime stand-in for that, because otherwise it wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense for Ash and friends to just waltz into her house and talk to her, and she just looks like exactly like Ash for some reason.
Once the rain cleared, they continued that anime-exclusive train and reached Matcha City. Awesome name for a city, by the way. Unfortunately, this was a place Porygon would soon become wrongfully blamed for Pikachu's seizure-inducing attack. Episode 39 rolled around and they reached a beach I can only assume it's Route 19's. It just took a lot of time to get here. Anyway, they take a quick detour, you know, nothing too crazy, just to the North Pole to bring this Jinx back to Santa Claus because it's Christmas, apparently. Oh no. Guys, it's a mess. It's a mess. In the next episode, I
mean, I was about to say it could just be the Seafoam Islands, but like, what?
don't know if we're still in the North Pole, but we are in some snowy adjacent mountains. And I also know that Lapras helped them get to the North Pole, and Santa did explicitly request for them to, quote, take these children back to where they were before, end quote. But here's the thing, I have reason to believe Lapras, well, she didn't take them the whole way back to Route 19. Here's why. It took them a whopping total of 21 episodes before reaching Cinnabar. A little weird if they went right to Cinnabar after Lapras dropped them off at Route 19. You'd expect most of these episodes to be on the water or island hopping to get to Cinnabar eventually, but they are landlocked for the majority of this journey. In fact, the snowy theme continues for one more episode after the Christmas one. So I ask you this.
Even though Kanto doesn't even have any snow in it? I mean, apart from like Mount Silver, which is honestly almost more of a Johto location than a Kanto location.
What's a Japanese Pokemon region with a distinct snowy biome and also not a lot of water? Well, it's not Hoenn, they've got a desert, lots of water, and no snow. Can't be Johto, again, no snow. So, what are we left with?
Oh?
That's right. Sinnoh! And it fits these parameters perfectly. Not only is it the northernmost Japanese region, allowing it to make complete sense for Lapras to drop them off here. Hell, the trio might have even asked Lapras to drop them off to save her some trouble. But also, the northernmost part of Sinnoh is snowy. The folks at OLM were damn geniuses, you know?
OLM?
Round of applause for OLM.
Animation
I am
company
sure
probably.
that this was not a complete coincidence and this just worked out in my favor. No, not at all. Holy shit. I can't believe I spun this to make sense. Okay, anyway, let's keep going. This means the gang perilously traveled the entirety of Sinnoh and any other yet unnamed Japanese regions until reaching their very own Kanto once again.
I mean, Sinnoh is based on Hokkaido, isn't it? Where is Hokkaido in relation to Kanto? Let's see. Oh yeah, no, Hokkaido is way to the north of Kanto. Hokkaido, because yeah, Kanto is named after the actual Japanese Kanto prefecture. It wasn't until like Johto where they started naming them more so after like they just started making up new names for them. So Kanto's the only one that actually shares a name with its real life inspiration. Based on the map here, take it with a grain of salt, but based on this map I'm looking at, it looks like Johto might be based on the Kubu region. I want to say Hoenn is based on Kyushu, but I could be wrong about that. I'll put it up on screen. And yeah, Sinnoh is definitely based on Hokkaido. It's like no chance it isn't. I mean Hokkaido if it was like flipped diagonally, but otherwise yeah. Or mirrored diagonally.
Which they still had to backtrack through the entirety of to reach Route 19's beach again. In any case, with 41, they kept the consistency of the snowy mountain in the background, so they've officially left Snow Point. Then they stumbled across Stone Town, the foot of Mount Shinka, another nearby mountain where trainers all over the world come to evolve their Pokemon with evolutionary stones. After that, they passed through another unnamed village with a Snorlax. Next, they passed through Dark City and stopped a gang war on episode 44.
What?
And on 45, they passed by a traveling carnival. Yay! After which they journeyed through a town in a valley, Matsumo Town, aka Moss Green Village in English, to resupply on potions and other essentials, you know, with hundreds and hundreds of kilometers ahead of them and all. The beginning narration at the start of 47 is fucking hilarious. Somehow they found themselves in the middle of a desert. He has straight up just given up on denoting their location or even trying to ascertain where they are.
Yeah, there are no deserts in Kanto or Johto. There's one in Hoenn. But, like, How would they have gotten there?
Don't worry, Mr. Narrator, I've got you covered. That's why I'm here, alright? Also, with this desert, it kind of confirms they're not in Kanto. I would say they're in Hoenn because that's the only Japanese region that makes sense, with it having a desert and all, though locationally speaking, it doesn't make much sense. Because for one, in-universe, Hoenn is an island, and for two, the real Japanese region Hoenn is based on, Kyushu, sits southwest of Kanto.
Okay, yeah, I was exactly right on this, wasn't I? This is almost exactly the map I was looking at. I mean, if you want to be technical, the entirety of Japan is an archipelago, so it's all island. But but yeah.
So let's just say somewhere in between Sinnoh and Kanto, there's an anime-exclusive region we don't know the name of. In this region, there's a desert, of course. There's a city they found called Neon Town. It's got lots of gambling and nightlife to go around. Are we in fucking Las Vegas? I think we are. Anyway, in Neon Town, Jigglypuff made everyone sleep, as we all know. In the following episode, they found
Oh, that's that episode. Okay.
Grandpa Canyon. Totally not a ripoff of Grand Canyon, nope.
Grandpa
So whatever
Canyon.
region they're journeying through to reach Kanto is very American-based. I'm gonna use Kirito's naming scheme here and dub this region the Kanamari region. Like, Kanamari, you get it? Yeah, okay. During their visit to Grandpa Canyon, they found Togepi's egg and Charmeleon evolved. Continuing in Kanamari, they reached another unnamed city to heal Pikachu, and they helped out at a hospital. Then Misty won a bunch of Hina dolls, which she sent home via delivery truck. We can't be far off now. If it's within driving distance, that doesn't mean anything, honestly. Episode 50.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't mean much of anything, especially in America, where yeah, this place is enormous, but you could theoretically drive anywhere. It's just gonna take a while.
51 came about, and they were back on the green path, where the narrator noted they'd reached the entrance of a certain town. But of course, as usual, he didn't say which town. I swear to God, this has got to be the least helpful narrator of all time.
No, that's just a general anime and like manga thing. They don't want to specify, like, they don't want to name real world locations or anything, so they'll just say a certain place or whatever. Where is this place? Doesn't matter. It's just a certain place.
Anyway, this is where James's opulent family estate is located.
It's probably something that's like if you know what place, what real world location their current whereabouts is based on. Like, it could be one of those, like, MADs, one of those if you know sort of things, but yeah, if you're wanting to make a video essay like this, it really doesn't make any sense. It's really not helpful, especially if you don't know.
What we do know, though, is the surrounding city is pretty built up, and if they wanted the fastest way back without surfing, then I'd imagine they'd make a complete diagonal through these routes, which would land the estate just outside of Saffron, which makes sense for pompous rich folk. They would want to be right outside the biggest Cantonian city, after all, wouldn't they? Placing it right about here. So, after a small adventure in the mansion, they continued towards the inner city. Oh, and also the reason I placed it right here specifically is because if you look at this shot, there's mountains in the background. Where else is there mountains in the background? Well, everywhere in Kanto, let's be honest, but if you look at the actual map, on Route 9, there's that waterway, right? And if you notice, they have to travel across a bridge to reach James's estate, meaning there's a large lake, and maybe this waterway goes under the mountain, or maybe through the mountain pass, and it leads out to this little lake. Maybe. I'm gonna go with that. En route, they helped the kid realize he should return the Pokemon and belongings he stole. Nice job, guys. Well done. In episode 53, they made it to the actual inner part of Saffron once again. And while getting some grub here, Ash was finally like, oh yeah, where's my next gym again? Also, Togepi hatched here, and they battled to decide who get...
Oh, that's funny. This is after like 30 episodes of just randomly wandering around. Oh yeah, that's right. Where am I going next? I don't remember.
Custody over it. After this pit stop in the city, they likely continued with the diagonal shortcut route because, for one, there's still a lot of locations to get through before reaching Cinnabar, and for two, those locations happen to need a home. And these two large patches of greenery bordering Route 7 are two of the only untraveled areas left. And you know what? For three, I have reason to believe the next few locations they reach are actually a lot closer together than you might think, which I'll get to my reasoning behind that soon. For now, with episode 54's start, the narrator said we're en route to Cinnabar Island, while Ash was in a battle against a random hiker who damaged his Bulbasaur pretty good. Luckily, there's a random woodland Pokemon center. I mean, seriously, look at this cabin. Who even comes to this center? At a certain point, they show a landscape shot where they're still surrounded by forests as far as the eye can see. And somewhere in that forest is the Bulbasaur Mysterious Garden, where a Venusaur leads a secluded evolutionary festival for Bulbasaur to partake in. When episode 55 begins, it seems like they're coming across 6 or so buildings making up a tiny village. Honestly, this is the closest thing I've seen so far in the anime that actually resembles the towns you encounter in the games. Here, they discovered Sakura Preschool in the middle of the wilderness. You know, I never questioned the remoteness of all these locations before, but this one really tips the scale. Where are all these children coming from? I count 14 children. Who's bringing their children all the way out to the boonies to go to the preschool? I mean, I guess 5 or 6 households for 14 children is easily possible, but still. Moving on.
I mean, that's, like... Yeah, there's like 2 to 3 kids per household. That's not too ridiculous, actually.
From that village, continuing through the forest, they met... Wait, is that a male Officer Jenny? Officer Jensen? But yeah, speaking of remote locations, they stumbled across a whole police station? Or maybe solely a training ground? I'm not really sure, but anyway, let's move on. At the beginning of the next episode, we can see some more scattered houses in the background. While eating lunch at some sort of rest stop type area, their meal was interrupted by Todd, who decided to join them for a bit. After a riverside lunch, they walked to Todd's house, and upon taking down Team Rocket, they stumbled down what looks like an aqueduct, which probably takes water all across the settlement starting from Tokyo Bay. Episode 58 seems to prove my theory of all these locations being quite close together correct, because in one scene, Todd suggested going to take the Pokemon League certification exam, and they hard cut, and the next scene they're already there. I suppose this remote area is a small community of outposts in and of itself, with no more than a couple kilometers separating each building or set of buildings. I ended up looking this one up because I was very curious, and the closest thing I could find was called a dispersed or scattered settlement. Interesting. Thanks, Pokemon. We started the next episode.
That is interesting, yeah. I could definitely see that. It would sort of be like, it would be like one of those, like, I guess you could call them like farming towns almost, or something, where like a lot of it, well, it's like, it's technically like a city or whatever, but like the majority of it is just like farmland with not a whole lot going on it and stuff. One of my friends, an online friend that I have visited in person, she lives, at least at the time, she lived basically in the middle of nowhere, practically. There was, like, I went to visit her, and there was just not a whole lot there. We had to drive like an hour to get to anywhere with anything interesting going on. But, yeah, like, the actual area, because technically the part that I visited was, like, the town basically right next door to where she lived at. And we actually went to her house at one point very briefly. She just had to pick something up. And there was just nothing there. The area she actually lived at the time, there was just absolutely fucking nothing. Like, it was insane. So yeah, that could be an example of a scattered settlement. There's just not, it could be like a farm town or something. There's just wide open fields of absolutely nothing.
In yet another unnamed city. In any case, while they were here, they took down Cassidy and Butch's Pokemon poaching ring, and then parted ways with Todd at a crossroads, with one party heading towards another mountain range for more pictures and another, presumably shorebound. Bye, Todd. And finally, after all these years, they reached a port which we didn't even see on screen, and we're in the water. Holy shit, guys, it's actually happening. They're back from the North Pole! So they once more trekked through Route 14, then Safariland again, and finally reached that...
Haven't they been back from the North Pole for a while now?
Same Route 19 beach, and then found a port and ferry, I guess. So, yep, we totally just got the entirety of Seafoam Islands. Don't you worry, though, because the...
I mean, Seafoam Islands was pretty much entirely optional area anyway, so what difference does it make?
They did not forget about Seafoam, they just moved it. I don't know why. Or maybe they did forget about it at this point and then later on realized they needed to include it somehow. You'll see. You'll see when we get there. All I care is we're back on track. Let's go. This is going to be a lot easier from here on out. All right. Moving on, though, they reached Cinnabar Island and Ash had his battle against Blaine in the most dangerous Pokemon gym battle ever conceived. I cannot believe this passed the Pokemon League inspection. They had these 10-year-old kids battling inside of a freaking volcano.
Oh, he's going to have an aneurysm at Claire's gym.
And then they soon started their way back towards Viridian City, because Ash accidentally skipped that before because Misty was chasing him around, demanding her bike back.
Oh, and freaking Mount Battle in Coliseum and XD. That's just literally hovering above an active volcano. Like, excuse me?
When episode 62 started, it turned out they missed the ferry back to Pallet Town, maybe? Actually, I know it's not Pallet Town, but we'll get to that. And instead, they heeded a War Turtle's call to Blastoise Island, a seemingly uninhabited by humans island. Here, Pikachu helped wake all the Blastoise, War Turtle, and Squirtles up from Jigglypuff's song, which is why they were led here in the first place. I thought they were about to go on an island-hopping adventure, right? But the next episode starts with Ash saying,
why is he just holding...
this.
But
Oh, first of all, I love how you could clearly see how long this video is taken. That, like, his hair is longer at this point than it was when he started it. But also, why is he just holding the, like, filter for the microphone away from the microphone? That's not what that's for, dude.
we're not near the ocean or any lakes.
Brother, how far did you guys go since the last episode? What do you mean you're nowhere near the ocean? What?
Yeah, his hair is, like, so, like, it's not long necessarily. Probably not anywhere close to mine. But, like, his hair is so much longer than it was at the start of this video.
What do you mean? Like, seriously, where the heck even are they? Yet another unnamed city? So, interesting thing here, the astute English dub viewer, which I'm assuming most of you are, will have remembered this city being Viridian, which the narrator in the English version does explicitly say.
We join Ash, Misty, and Brock at the entrance to Viridian City.
But if we go to the Japanese version, it says they're still en route to Viridian City. So I'm gonna go with the Japanese because that's the most right. No, but then they revealed they're not far from Cerulean City? What? What kind of cursed-ass route did you guys take back? That is completely out of the way from Viridian. What? Like, huh? Maybe the ferry doesn't connect to Pallet Town, or at least the coast where Pallet Town is closest to, and it only connects to the main...
I like the idea that this, that these edits are just, like, reflective of him gradually going a little bit crazier as time goes on.
Major cities, like Vermilion. Alright, let's go with that. Let's assume they reached Maiden's Peak again. Follow the same path they did before, this time without Sabrina's help, and reach Saffron that way. I think this city is actually Saffron. Yeah, because that would make sense for them to be relatively close to Cerulean City. Sabrina's probably asking what these psychos are doing here for a third time now. Actually, okay, with that being said, they finally reached their ultimate goal of Cerulean to give Horsey some exercise. You know, episode 64 starts off in an unnamed city again, though I surmise it might actually be Pewter, because Brock says offhandedly it's the best ice cream shop in town, meaning he's familiar with the ice cream around here to know this is definitely the best one. Or I'm just taking Brock's sentence way too literally. They leave Pewter City at the end of episode 64. At 65...
I mean, he could be exaggerating, but I feel like that would still require a level of familiarity with the place to like, be able to say that, you know? You're not gonna say something's the best in town when you just got to that town and you don't know where anything is or what anything is. Unless you go in there knowing it's the only one in town, so by default it's the best.
They finally arrived back in Viridian, beat the gym, and then headed back to ask Professor Oak where exactly the Pokemon League is. Pretty funny since they could have just asked a local to avoid a lot of traveling. That sentence probably could be used to describe a lot of this journey. When Ash arrived home, he battled Gary to prepare for the league. Unfortunately, they arrived back here a little too early, so they decided to help out Professor Oak with some research regarding Slowpoke's evolution, so upon Oak's request, made their way to Professor Nishinomori for some aid. You guys want to know where Nishinomori lives? Apparently right next to the Seafoam Islands, which is apparently walking distance from Ash's house, which makes no sense at all because it is an island, or islands, plural?
So archipelago, yes.
Funnily enough, they omitted that line in the dub. Misty and Brock went ahead of Ash for a vacation. Meanwhile, Ash was supposed to stay for independent training, but found a loophole through the professor's dismay, which I mentioned. Okay, guys, I really don't get this one. Either Ash swam all the way there, which I don't doubt he could, or the more likely option, OLM changed the location of Seafoam Islands to being a coastal town. Whatever. I know in Japanese it's just called Bines, so it would make more sense for them to do it there, and now we're left with the scraps in English, but what? It's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm going to call it the Seafoam Coast. That sounds better. And if you were curious, they actually do show a vague geographical location as to where Nishinomori's house is, so where Bines is, or Seafoam Coast, which appears to be along the western coastline. So I'm putting it here. They spent another day here surfing it up before returning home for some independent training for the soon-coming Pokemon League. During the next few weeks, Ash continuously promised himself to do that very independent training, but slacked off nearly every day. One day, he got distracted by the Murasame greenhouse near Palette's outskirts. Then another, he visited a campsite and helped make a movie with a producer/director. Also, since movie 1 begins on a cliffside overlooking the ocean, I'm gonna say this is about the time when movie 1 takes place. Jesus. Since he's got all his full original team and they're still 4 or so weeks out from the league. So we've got plenty of time for a movie plot. Let's just say he went to this cliff near Kanto Wharf, the movie city, which I'm assuming is relatively close to Seafoam. Maybe it's east of Seafoam or something, but
I mean, are the Pokemon movies canon? I've never been sure about that. I know that anime movies tend to not be canon unless explicitly stated otherwise. So, like, I'm not sure.
Anyway, let's say he went to Kanto Wharf to train some more. I'd even wager he came to this specific spot to train against strong trainers, since it's likely one of the last major cities before the league itself. Of course, we all know upon seeking shelter from the sudden typhoon, the gang rushed back to Kanto Wharf's Pokemon Center and then made their way to the Pokemon Castle on New Island, where Ash met Mew and Mewtwo, and the entire movie's plot happened. He died again, and then they returned back to the wharf, and soon back home. Another morning came, and he was invited to Hollywood to watch a special early screening of the film they filmed the other day. So they, I assume, flew out there? Once arrived, we see Hollywood's looking rough. According to Brock, movies can't be made easily due to the recent recession. The Japanese version implies this was due to the cost of movies being significantly high enough to be economically unstable, and that their movie was the only film to come out of the festival that made any profit. Damn, that's kind of depressing. I have no idea where this Hollywood is supposed to be, but seeing as how we have now headcanoned a American region with all the American things in that region, I'm gonna say Hollywood is in Katamari.
Katamari.
That sounds good to you? That sounds good to me. All right, cool. They go from Pallet Town to Mount Miyazaki, or Mount Hideaway, to meet and train with Bruno, which is actually quite close.
I mean, we've never seen a region based on an entire country in Pokemon, right? Gen 2 apparently was going to have something like that, like the entire map was going to be like multiple smaller regions based and like the entire map was going to be based a lot more closely off of Japan as a whole. But like we've never had like a region, an entire actual country be depicted in a Pokemon game. We've had bits and pieces of various countries. Honestly, the closest that we've gotten to that is probably like Paldea. And Galar, kind of. But they're still referred to as regions, but like, I mean, the Paldea is pretty much entirely the Iberian Peninsula. Like, it may as well be with how big it is. But Kanto is based on that specific region of Japan. The first 4 regions, not including Ore, the first 4 mainline regions are all based on like parts of Japan. No, not one of them is based on the entirety of Japan or even like an enormous like broad section. It's usually like a specific part of Japan that each one is based on. Like I already said, Kanto is the only region to ever be directly named after the place that it's based on. Johto is based on I already forgot the name. Hold on. Johto is based on, it looks like the Chubu region, or at least geographically it looks like that's the case. Hoenn is based on Kyushu. Sinnoh is based on Hokkaido. But like, there's never been a situation where all of these places show up on one map and it's based on the entire country of Japan, just like different bits and pieces of it. We've had 3 American-inspired regions. Ore is based on like Arizona, and like that general area. Arizona, New Mexico area. Unova, of course, is based on New York, and Alola is, of course, based on Hawaii. I mean, I guess at one point Hawaii counted as its own separate country, but it hasn't in like what 70 years or something. Um, and then you know, Kalos is based on it's based on France, but like not all of France. It's like specifically like the like Paris and like the surrounding areas of France, I believe. Um, Galar is based on the UK, and Paldea is of course based on the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal. Although, from what I've heard from somebody in a Discord server I'm in who's actually from Portugal, it's apparently like 99.999% Spain, with the only actually Portuguese inspired thing in the game being Smoliv and its evolutionary line. All the rest are just Spanish. That's the only really Portuguese thing, supposedly. Um, I don't know about any of that, but yeah, like Galar and Paldea are probably the only places that are like that, in my understanding and experience, are broad enough to be considered depictions of entire like countries as opposed to just like specific areas within those countries. But like there's no one region, there's no one like major broad area based on the entirety of America or based on the entirety of Japan or whatever. Apparently there's like development notes, or like in like various documents and stuff that have come out. There were apparently plans to do something like that for Gen 2, where like Kanto was going to be there, but it was going to be like a super like tiny, very abridged version of Kanto. And like there were going to be other, like the entire map was going to be based a lot more generally on Japan as a whole, and you go to like different regions within this Japan country, this Japan like area. Many of those regions also being places that have never appeared in another Pokemon game to this day and stuff. I learned this all from I forget which one it was specifically, but it was like which video specifically, but it was Chugga Conroy's like Heart Gold Soul Silver Let's Play earlier this year. That he talked about it. That many of those like mini regions that were going to be in Gen 2 have never appeared in any capacity to this day, outside of those development notes, outside of like those planning documents that only just recently came out. So yeah, I guess if you want to look at it a certain way, they could come out and say at some point that the Unova Ore, although Ore is like barely canon, I think, because Pokemon seemingly has little to no interest in acknowledging Ore for the most part. Although there is an NPC in Legends EA who shares a name, design, and even pose with a character from Coliseum and XD, which might be an intentional reference or one of the most insane coincidences I've ever seen in literally anything. So, like, I'll show a picture of that. But, yeah, like, they seem to have no interest in revisiting the Ore region. They seem barely interested in making references to the Ore region. But like they could come out and say at some point that the actual landmass, the actual country that Ore, Unova, and Alola are on/near is like an actual grander Kanamari country or something. I mean, nothing's stopping them. They probably won't use the name Kanamari unless they can prove beyond a doubt that they didn't watch this video where he made that up and came up with it on their own. coincidentally. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying I think that would be impossible. I'm just saying that would be really, really hard to argue. But yeah, I've been rambling long enough.
The pallet. This one I can confirm is within walking distance. Here, Bruno and the group rescued a distressed Onyx. After he left, Ash attempted to continue his training on Mount Miyazaki, but it was soon interrupted by a Jigglypuff, or rather the Jigglypuff, who causes their attacks to misfire, revealing an ancient relic of Pokemonia, where they accidentally summoned a mythological ancient giant Gengar, Alakazam, and Jigglypuff. Thankfully, the latter eventually sealed them all back away. Anyway,
oh yeah, I think I've seen that one actually.
Starts off in Oak's lab, so they've come down from the mountain. The narrator just straight up says, you know, you could really tell Ash was gonna lose this one. But apparently it's only a week out now, and Ash didn't realize it. So we finally have some more actual movement and traveling to make their way to the Indigo Plateau. Brock said they took a shortcut to the league, so the only place that would...
Does Ash even have the all-day gym badges at this point?
Makes sense is basically skipping Route 1 and 22 through this forested area. Thankfully, they avoided getting lost this time and eventually made it to a lake. You know, I think their sense of direction has gotten better over the course of the series. They've been getting better with their shortcuts, I gotta say. And then around that lake is the Indigo Plateau. The opening ceremony is the very next day, and en route, Ash takes the frickin' torch from the Torch Runner mid-run. Real dick move there, Ash. But anyway, yeah, they eventually make it to an enemy.
I mean, it looks like the Torch Runner willingly gave it to him, so... And nobody seemed to object to that decision, at least not in the footage he showed. So, like, if that's how they want to do it, they can let them do it.
Exclusive location in Competitors Village, and by extension, the Pokemon League. I guess the badge verification doesn't exist like it does in the games, so I'll assume this runway is a replacement for that. Ash makes it further than you might expect him to, but eventually loses to Richie. And with that, we are finished. I don't know if this video is going to be, like, incomprehensible gibberish, or if it's actually going to be a good, worth-to-make video, but I made it, so here it is. Oh, good lord. All things considered, I think I did a decent enough job. I'm surprised a lot of this actually fit together as well as it did. I didn't think OLM...
Okay, and apparently he got a haircut. Because his hair was much longer. Like... Not even that long ago. I was living in Nova Scotia. For the sake of not doxing, I'm not going to name who it is, but I have like one of my surprisingly high amount of Canadian friends would probably love that.
Thought this much into it, and I honestly think a lot of it still is a huge lucky coincidence. Especially the Snoke Point thing blows my mind. That I'm surprised I came up with something for that. And the Kenamari region was such BS, but it worked. It works, right? A few things here. If you're
part of me thought he was going to say it was going to be like a combination of Canada and like... I mean, Canada is part of North America as a continent, technically, but like... I thought he was going to... I thought Canamari was going to be like a portmanteau of Canada and America. Because that's the thing that like... A lot of people refer to the U.S. as America, even though there's two Americas, and the U.S. doesn't even take up the entirety of one of them. The U.S. is a really big place, but, like, it's not the entire continent, people.
Wondering why I, for one, keep changing shirts in this video, and for two, I cut my hair for a lot of these clips. It's because I kept thinking of other things to add and other things to record and clarify and yada yada yada, so that's why I look so different in a lot of these. Is because this was recorded on like probably 15 different days. And then for two, I will have the map I made available for download. I used Wonder Draft to make it. I just learned how to use this program, and it was actually pretty easy to use. This is not like a sponsorship for Wonder Draft. I just really like the program. And the map I put for download will have the Fuchsia City fixed. I know I misspelled Fuchsia City in that. I always thought it was Fuschia, but no, it's Fuchsia, apparently. I didn't know that. And you'll notice there was a big sandy area around Celadon, Saffron, and Sunnytown. It's not supposed to be sandy. I messed that up, and I was way too far into editing at the time when I realized I messed it up, so in the video it looks sandy, but you can see here in the real download it'll be grassy. I had like a false memory of that being being sandy. I don't know why. I really don't know why, but yeah, you'll see the surroundings are definitely they're definitely grassy around there. It's just maybe a lighter tone of grass, but it's still grassy. Anyway, with all that being said, like
New Latin formed by adding a Latin suffix to the surname of 16th century German botanist and physician Leonard Fuchs. Okay. Interesting.
this video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, comment any thoughts you have on this video, anything you think you might want to add or clarify or change. I would be happy to discuss that. And if there's anything I messed up, definitely let me know so I can pin it to the top comment, and I will credit you, of course. And just let me know if you guys want to see this series continue. I would be happy to do Johto. I don't know if Orange Islands would work very well for this series, but it would be fun to just document all the random islands he goes to at the very least, right? But anyway, have yourselves a fantastic day, and don't forget to stay trash. Peace.
Stay trash, what? Oh yeah, because it's called Kazutrash. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, show on video. Let's see, can I do it from here? No, but I can do this. Subscribing to him. You all do the same, please. Liking the video, because that was great. I enjoyed that a lot. Okay. I had a really good time reacting to this. It was really fun. I kind of wish I'd watched more of the anime growing up. I did watch some of it. Just like I missed a lot. Also, he kind of looks like Wolfie VGC in this thumbnail, or not thumbnail, in this profile picture. But anyway, like, yeah, I never heard of this channel before today, and I'm really glad that it just showed up in my recommended. So like, yeah, absolutely go check out his channel. He seems to put a lot of effort into his videos. He put a lot of time and effort into it, clearly. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. So yeah. But also for anybody who enjoyed my borderline inane ramblings at times and is interested in watching more of it, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I am going to be doing reaction videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays from now to try to have still try to have content coming out while I work on like bigger projects and stuff, because I do have some stuff that I want to work on. I'm just if you're even at this point in the video, you probably care about this. You probably care to hear this realistically. But mainly what I've been struggling with is just how I want to structure my videos, how I want to like tackle them and stuff. That's like the main thing that I've been having issues with, and it sometimes doesn't help that I do have like an actual day job and stuff that I don't do. So like that drains a lot of my energy. It makes it really hard to like try to focus on this. But that's making excuses. You know, there's a lot to it. But anyway, I do have videos, like my own original videos that I want to work on, that I'm trying to like figure out how I want to do them, how I want to structure them, and stuff. And be on the lookout for those, because I'm really, if I can actually get the motivation, or not the motivation, the energy to do it. You know, I really want to try to make those as best as I can. So if you're interested in more content from me specifically, more original content, be sure to subscribe. Be sure to check out my Twitch. I stream every Monday and Tuesday on Twitch, 8 p.m. EST, and yeah, I'll probably be cutting around that. There's a lot of dead air and a lot of just like awkward stammering. That's not important. The point is, yeah, check out Kazutrash. That name is very ironic considering how good this video was. Be sure to go subscribe to him, like his videos, all that stuff. And if you enjoy watching me react to stuff, watching my way of doing things and everything, you know, be sure to throw a subscription, like my way as well. Comment if you have anything interesting you want to mention, or like anything like that. If there's something I said during my rambling and yapping during this video that you want to like maybe clarify, like maybe I said the wrong thing, maybe I was wrong about something, and you want to correct me, if you want to like whatever, be sure to leave it in the comments below. And until next time, take care.